5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to this Culture Clash Live that is on at a very special time. We are on at noon Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific. It's been a little busy for everybody here at the Fandom Podcast Network, so we had to adjust things. It's a big weekend. Obviously, we have Beetlejuice opening in the theaters. We have the kickoff of the NFL season, second week of college football for all you sports fans out there. A lot of stuff going on, some great new things that have been popping up on streaming as well. We're going to cover as much of it as we can here, but we're going to have a little fun too because it's time to save another film from Oblivion, possibly. It's 2008's Wanted, the Angelina Jolie, James McAvoy film based off of a Mark Millar comic. But was it really based off of a Mark Millar comic? That is one of the conversations we are going to have when it is time to see if we are going to save Wanted from Fandom Oblivion. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, please join in the chat. We'd love to get your thoughts on everything we're talking about and what you think. Should Wanted be saved from Oblivion, or should we let it proceed on its way? But I got to have a full crew here with me to talk about it. And luckily, he has reformed himself like the T1000 after being out in extreme heat yesterday with a very special event. I'm glad to see him back here. It's the he might have taken one of those special baths. I don't know, but it is my co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
Wanted. That's what we're talking about, right? Wanted. And by the way, Kyle, it's 9 a.m., not 9 p.m.
Oh, that's true. I am so screwed up on my work week that's how it goes.
Oh man, we've been burning the candle at both ends, haven't we?
Fantasy football drafts, working extra overtime, troops, podcasting. It's all of that, but
105-degree troops, yes.
Yeah, you were having flashbacks to when you came down here and four quarters in overtime in your Raider Nerd Boba Mando suit, right?
Yeah, and that was humidity too. Ooh,
yeah.
We had the dry heat around here, so yeah.
But you know who's having more fun than any of us, because I know she's got a couple of new furry friends at home. It is Miss Lacey Adderhold, the queen of movie poo. Lacey.
What's up, Lacey?
I'm very excited. I'm having a great fun day. Actually, my mother is upstairs with the kitties, making sure they don't murder each other because they're just sussing each other out right now.
Sussing. I love it.
Okay, I have to ask while we're live, because we had this conversation last night, just real quick. Are we still working on the name thing? Because we had a pretty good idea last night.
Yeah, I'm debating because they're both white kitties, right? So I was going to do Betty White, and Jeremy Allen White. And also Jeremy Allen White's initials are JAW, so I was going to call him Jaws. But I don't know if the personalities fit really yet, because I'm just
you got to wait for the personalities to kick
right
in and settle on a name. I've learned that. Yeah,
thinking like Jaws and Bones.
Trust me, I tried to get Kyle to change the Stripesy name, but he stuck with it.
Well, he pretty much goes by Goober these days, so
well,
you should have waited.
Well, I think I might actually be leaning towards Bones and Banshee, just because she's deaf, but she's like very, very vocal, which is kind of Banshee-esque. And he's like huge. His paws are giant. So he's going to be huge, which, it's kind of like the giant guy you see at the gym and his name's Tiny. This guy's like,
right.
But we'll call him Bones.
Pumpkin doing all right?
Pumpkin is assessing her dominance. She is figuring out how she's going to make this
my house, kitties. This is my house. You're welcome to hang with my house.
So I did put out the suggestion for Lacey too, because she already has Pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
That she needed to name the cats Sally and Linus,
right?
From the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yes.
Like it.
So there's always that possibility as well. I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to figure out their little. I have a really close friend whose niece's name is Sally, and that might
Well-
just be a little bit odd.
Well, we'll be looking forward to some more pictures later on. So
Yes!
Yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
But well, let's get things going here. Of course, this is Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network, and your home for all things fandom. But Kevin, before we get into all the news and reviews and all the great stuff we got to talk about, I want to talk about what you were up to yesterday.
Yeah, I had a really fun Star Wars day yesterday. I'm part of the 501st and Rebel Legion Star Wars official costume groups, and yesterday I represented the Rebel Legion with my Rebel Fleet Trooper. And there's a town south of us from here in Santa Barbara, about an hour and a half south, called Moore Park, and it's a cool little town. It's been around for a long time, and there was this High Street Arts Center theater that they have there that's been there for almost 100 years. It was like one of the first silent film theaters, and then it became one of the first Southern California talkie theaters. A little town, it's kind of hidden, got a lot of history, and they hosted a Star Wars fan film night. They had 2 Star Wars fan films there. And if you look at the picture here on YouTube, you'll see all of us outside the theater there. And yes, it was 105 degrees at its hottest, if I remember correctly. Luckily, most of the troop was indoors and in the theater for a lot of picture opportunities. And I want to give a shout out, of course, to my Channel Islands 501st Squad and guys that came up from the Los Angeles squad there. Had a lot of fun. But also got to meet some of the people that were in these fan films. But you may or may not recognize gentleman up in the top right with me there. That is Chris Bartlett. Do you guys know who Chris Bartlett is? Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you who Chris Bartlett is. I actually ran into him briefly a few weeks ago, Kyle. I remember was it last month when I was down in Hollywood. They had that special Boonta Eve Star. It was the Friends of the Filoniverse, so to speak. A lot of actors and stunt actors that were performed in a lot of the recent Filoniverse films or TV series, of course, Mandalorian and Ahsoka and stuff. And Chris Bartlett, he's the guy that's in all the protocol droid outfits. And he also has done a lot of public appearances as C-3PO. And he's done a lot of he's done a lot of uncredited work. And I met him down there briefly, and he's in one of these fan films. And of course, he has credits on Obi-Wan, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. He also was a Kalon in the Orville, Kyle.
Actually, and I believe he come. I believe he joined us for a podcast a couple years ago.
I think there was someone was doing. I think it was it was the Star Wars Stuff podcast with David, right?
Yes.
Yes, he came on as a guest, and we were promoting whatever he was at the time. And very sweet guy, he was there. But it was a really nice troop there. But I was really impressed with the 2 Star Wars fan films that they did this with, and I'll get into that in a second. But what was really cool about this is that there was a lot of kids there experiencing this for the first time. I would have given up like an arm and a leg to have seen high production Star Wars fan films at their age, instead of waiting like years for the next Star Wars film, or the Ewok movies, or the TV droids, or that dark period we had in the 90s with no Star Wars until the Thrawn trilogy came out. So it was really cool to see kids getting pictures with us and meeting some of the people that starred in these. I don't want to spoil too much of these. I don't know when they're going to be released, or however, obviously they're fan films, so they're not making money or anything like that. But the first film was, do you know who Malakili is? This is a deep dive from Return of the Jedi. If you don't know who Malakili is, he was the Rancor keeper that got sad that Luke killed his Rancor.
That's right.
That was mean.
What's that?
That was mean. It was very sad.
Yeah. Well, what happened if Malakili had an origin story? I'm just going to leave it at that. And the second film, which it looked like part of it was filmed at the Star Wars Scum and Villainy bar, because I'm very familiar with that Star Wars theme bar, because there was a bar scene in that fan film. But what if the Boba Fett that we saw in Return of the Jedi was not Boba Fett, but a decoy? And so it was a very cool kind of like what if scenario. And the production value was great. The costumes, the effects, the the practical effects, and Bartlett was great as one of the droids from the first film, which was the Malakili origin story. I'm just going to say, a lot of fun, great event. Glad that I was part of it. Make sure you guys look for these. It's Sands of the Fate was the second film. The Malakili one, I think, was called Beginning Monster, and I can't remember. It's like something in beginning, like the beginning of a monster or something like that. It was really, really cool. And the little kid in that was just awesome. So yeah, great time.
Well, it's always great when Rebel Legion and 501st and all you guys, the troops, they're always fantastic.
Yeah, shout out to Chris Bartlett too. He he's doing this, Oh, I forgot to mention, a big contributor to these fan films, and I believe he had a small role as a bartender, was what's his name? I'm forgetting his name now. Steve Blum. Remember Steve Blum? Played what's his name? Zeke in Rebels.
Zeb. He was in
Zeb. He played Zeb, and he's a plethora of voice acting roles.
Probably still his most famous role for a lot of people is Spike Spiegel, leading the cult classic anime Cowboy Bebop.
There you go. Yes, exactly. He contributed to a lot of the film as well, and did some voice and stuff like that. So I got to give a shout out to Steve Blum. He was really good. So yeah. Steve
Blum also famous for being the voice of Toonami, went back in the day. The Toonami
there you
robot.
Go. Yeah. Or Zebarelius, that's the name I was trying to remember.
Yep. Sounds like a incredible event, Kevin, and I know you will be doing more here. Hopefully it won't be 105 degrees.
I'll be honest with you. I wanted to do this event because I'm not going to be around for Halloween, because I'm going to be in Australia for a month, and so I'm going to miss some very important Halloween troops here in the Santa Barbara area. We have our Boo at the Zoo, where it's a huge draw, a couple of weekends. People come up to the Santa Barbara Zoo, and there's Star Wars and all kinds of other cool characters, and it's a great thing. But I'm not going to be here, unfortunately. So I had to get a troop in before I left.
It looks like it was a fun one. So very happy for you with that. But with that, guys, let's talk about what's coming up next on the Fandom Podcast Network. We've of course got some great stuff out now and some great stuff coming soon. And kicking it off, Couch Potato Theater, Edge of Tomorrow. Yes, it is the year of time travel here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And, we are looping it back, looking at some great time travel films, including the Tom Cruise classic Edge of Tomorrow. This was a lot of fun. I did it with both of you guys. Are we starting the podcast again, Kevin?
Bang!
How many times, Lacey, did you die during that podcast? That's the real question.
47.
Always a good number. And coming up on Couch Potato Theater, we're going to be starting our dedication to James Cameron, as some of his movies are finally coming out on 4K, whether it's 4K disc or 4K digital. Our first one will be True Lies, which will be coming soon later this month. Then we will be diving into The Abyss. And then later on, we will also be covering Terminator and Aliens. Kevin, I know you're really excited to talk to James Cameron.
Oh, definitely.
No Titanic?
No Titanic. That's been out for a while.
Yeah, my heart has already gone on. So
that's fair.
And of course, we've got something very special going on our Union Federation podcast, of course, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville. And Kevin, you're heading up a very fun Star Trek project right now.
Yeah, we are covering all of the 2-part episodes of Star Trek Next Generation in air date and order. So the first one we had there was Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2. Then we went to Redemption part 1 and 2, Unification part 1 and 2 with, of course, Mr. Spock. And then we did the time travel episode Time's Arrow part 1 and 2. That just dropped recently. And we recorded just last week Chain of Command part 2, the Cardassian 2-parter with Captain Jellicoe. And coming up, we're recording this week Birthright part 1 and 2. So, and we got a couple more after that as well. We're really excited about Descent part 1 and 2, The Return of Lore, and Gambit part 1 and 2. We'll finish out the series, and then we'll have a little wrap-up episode as well. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just want to give a special shout out to Sarah Woloski from Skywalking from through Neverland for joining us for Time's Arrow. That was a lot of fun, and I think she might be going to be lucky enough to have her join us for at least one more of these.
Yeah, we're hoping to get her back on for one more.
And of course, we are time warping around here at the Fandom Podcast Network, and we've got August 1984 out, and September is coming, and lots of things.
Yeah, September is going to be interesting. I'm going to let you guys know right now, especially you, Lacey. We're going to be actually spending a lot more time on the television of 1984 in September, a little less on the films. We are going to be covering, of course, these films that we have pictured here as well. But September of 1984 was a very historic month of television premieres, and how legendary a lot of them were, and how some of them are just lost in time. And that's why we are time warping back. So we're going to have fun talking about that soon.
I just want to add into that too. If you are a fan of you getting up early in your Saturday mornings, having that dry cereal and watching your favorite cartoons, this is going to be a very fun episode to listen to when we put out that September episode. Just throwing that out there. And of course, Kevin, football season's here. You did a little fun football time warping.
Yeah, I decided to have some fun with a lot of the former Raiders that acted in movies and TV. And it's a little bittersweet this year, of course, because we lost Mr. Apollo Creed himself, Carl Weathers. And we're still mourning that and still celebrating that. And we had a lot of fun. We had my buddy Murph from Raiders Fan Radio. And a special guest on there to talk about movies and TV who starred former Raider players.
And of course, July was Deadpool month around the Fandom Podcast Network. And if you missed out, all of our podcasts from Deadpool month are still out there. It is still the #1 film in the box office. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we had
it's going to leave theaters and then come back next year, right? Just like the old days.
Once Upon a Deadpool Part 2.
Yeah, there you go. Let's get the holiday version of this movie. That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, we had our original Deadpool Couch Potato Theater from 2016, which was a Valentine's Day episode. So we had a little Valentine's fun with that.
Oh, it didn't go back that far, Kyle. Yeah, you're saying the movie was in 2016?
Yeah, the movie was in 2016, and of course, and then in 2018 when Deadpool 2 dropped, we have our Couch Potato Theater for that, and then we had a full cast of people who had been expelled from different parts of the MCU join us for the Deadpool and Wolverine reaction show. I think somebody may have lost their skin during that podcast.
Yeah, we had to dig Lacey up from a grave, and she was cool with that. So we didn't play with your corpse, though, Lacey. Just so you know. So
that's fair. Thank you. Appreciate that.
yeah. Might have been some chimichanga episodes we won't talk about during the podcast too. But of course, all of these are on the Fandom Podcast Network audio feed at fpnet.podbean.com, or visit our YouTube channel and watch the videos of them because they're a lot of fun. We got a lot of fun things going on within those videos. And finally, Kevin, hair metal. You just did something pretty fun, getting a lot of reaction out there.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. My buddy Mike Simmer and his friends Nez and Dick, as I have coined the Hair Metal Council. We all decided and covered the most popular hair metal era band covers of other songs, and we narrowed it down to our top 10, and that was a lot of fun.
I'm looking at that White Lion, and I'm like, every time I mention White Lion, people don't know who I'm talking about. And I'm like, how can you not know who White Lion is? I'm so excited to see that you have White Lion represented in this photo.
Well, White Lion is represented well in the hair metal podcast, especially our Facebook group. And if you don't know who White Lion is, you're just not into that music. So
right? Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, I'm so excited to see White Lion there. Yay!
Yeah. They actually have my favorite cover. So yeah, we talked about that.
Nice.
And finally, if you're going to do a little time travel back in the past and listen to or watch a couple of older episodes of Culture Clash, the last two we've done, we did a little time travel spotlight on the classic 1979 film Time After Time, which was a fun podcast to do because it was Kevin's first time seeing that film. And I think he came out enjoying it. And then our previous Save From Oblivion, did we save it? Did we not? That's the question. But it was Frank Miller's The Spirit from 2008. An interesting piece of Hollywood history. I love that. We'll just put it that way.
And we're covering another 2008 film tonight, so it's an interesting year.
Yeah. Well, 2008 could have been a good year for comic book movies. It might have been a bad year. We're going to find out here shortly. But guys, that's going to wrap up everything that is happening on and coming soon to the Fandom Podcast Network. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Let's news.
okay, guys, not a lot of news happening right now. This tends to be kind of a dead time of the year. We're winding down the summer flicks. Streaming's all over the place. Everything's a little out of whack because everything's still trying to get back on schedule from after the actor strike and COVID and everything like that. And, just coming out of some major cons with Comic-Con and D23. So a lot of big announcements there. So things on the quiet side. But there's been a few interesting news tidbits out there. And Kevin, this involves one of our favorite people, Alison Brie, who has been cast to play Evil Lynn in the new Masters of the Universe film that's in development. It's already cast Nicholas Goldstein as He-Man, Camille Mendez from what was the show? Now I'm blanking on the show. She played Veronica on
Riverdale.
Riverdale, thank you. Who she is playing Tila, and is being directed by Travis Knight, who did the phenomenal animated film Kubo and the Two Strings. It is being adapted from the toy line, but the plot of the film is being kept under wraps for now. But Kevin, we're big Alison Brie fans around here.
Yeah, definitely. And I obviously loved her in Community. Great in Glow. Shout out to her as Unikitty in the Lego movie.
Yes.
And then I think you turned us onto this film, or maybe I saw it last between you guys. I think I saw the Freelance film she did.
Yeah,
with,
she was great in that.
John Cena. Absolutely love that film. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she stood toe to toe with John Cena in that film.
Yeah, but, Lacey, you a fan of her?
I adore this woman. She is so funny and she's her, like, there's nobody else like her. Like, she just has her own little thing and she does it really well. There's a movie, I'm actually in the process of trying to look it up right now. She and Aubrey Plaza play nuns, and it's very dirty. She has a mouth on her. It is absolutely hilarious. But she's been in a ton of just small, little independent things where you go, wow, why didn't anyone promote this? Like, this is great. She was in Sleeping with Other People with Jason Sudeikis was fantastic.
I remember her in How to Be Single, came out in 2016.
Yeah.
Remember that as well? Yeah.
Well, she's going to be pure evil as Evil Lynn in Masters of the Universe. So this is shaping up to be something that could be very interesting.
So, by the way, just a little side note. So my wife has this friend that she used to work with, and they still understand. Her name is Evelyn. And my wife, Erin, immediately coined her as Evil. Just that was her name. And they eventually stopped working together, but they remained friends. And I've met Evelyn, or as we call Evil now. And I remember a couple of years ago when I went to Australia, I gave Evelyn, as we call Evil, an Evil Lynn Masters of the Universe figure. And she got a kick out of that. And she sent Evil a text saying, "Hey, look at this. This woman's cast as you." She's like, "Oh, it's going to be very interesting to see this." So she's really excited about seeing this interpretation of it. So, yeah.
Nice. Just FYI, the movie I was telling you about was The Little Hours. And
Little Hours. Okay.
Do not go into it expecting a sweet, innocent movie about nuns. Just don't.
Okay, good.
Not.
I'm gonna have to hit you up on that because I want to say, is that stream? Do you know where that's streaming?
I can look it up for you. But
The Little Hours, you said?
Yeah,
The
Little Hours.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure.
Big fan of Alison Brie. She's
so
I agree with everything that you said, Lacey.
Yeah. And also Spin Me Round, also with Aubrey Plaza. I think that they're friends in real life, so they kind of
they're tight. But I want to talk about a movie I've been actually intrigued by because I think it's got an intriguing cast. And Kevin, I'm actually going to throw something at you because you put a post out on Facebook a couple weeks ago with a comparison of The Rock and John Cena as wrestlers turned actors. I think you left a very important person out.
No, I didn't leave anyone else. I was just comparing two people.
Yeah.
A lot of people were throwing. I want to make this clear that you brought this up, Kyle. Before you go on, a lot of people were saying, "Well, what about this former wrestler? What about this former wrestler?" Like, I'm just comparing these two guys because The Rock and John Cena are the biggest. Let's just put it out there right now. Of course, Dave Bautista is making a name for himself, but the ones that have had the longest longevity as of now are those two. So that's why I was comparing those two, because I am disappointed in The Rock's career, because I think John Cena is eclipsing it in the type of movies that I want to see from former wrestlers that have gone into acting.
Well, this is a movie of, speaking of former wrestlers that's gone into acting. Dave Bautista, who I think has a very interesting IMDb when you look at it. But Kevin, this movie looks like something that's for sure right up your and I alley. It's the movie The Killer's Game. And Dave Bautista himself dropped a very fun 60-second trailer where he basically gives the overarching story of this. He plays a hitman who falls in love. Finds out he's got a terminal disease. Well, he puts a hit out on himself because he doesn't want to suffer, and he wants to be able to leave everything to his new love of his life. Well, then he finds out that somebody swapped the medical information, and now he's trying to cancel the hit, and he's got to take on a group of bizarre hitmen played by a litany of characters. But you've got Dave Bautista in this movie. Sofia Boutella plays his girlfriend. You've got Terry Crews, Scott Adkins, Marco Zazor, with, of course, Bautista reuniting with his Guardians star, Palm Clementif, and Ben Kingsley in this film, Kevin. This movie looks insane.
Don't just gloss over Scott Adkins, Kyle.
Oh, I'm not glossing over Scott Adkins.
Come on. Scott Adkins is the man. Let's go ahead. And by the way, Daniel Bernhardt is in this film. Do you know who Daniel Bernhardt is?
That name rings a bell, but I'm not placing it. It's refresh me.
Well, first of all, he is basically a Chad Stahelski buddy, and has worked with Scott Adkins before. But he was the big, heavy that John Wick had to fight in the dance club. And he ends up beating John Wick. He's like the big guy. He was also in he's played a lot of bad guys, but he was also one of the bad guys in Nobody, from Better Call Saul, the action film that he did. But this has got an interesting cast. I'm excited for this.
One other thing too, one of the other people in this film is Dave Bautista's opening the door for another WWE wrestler who's looking to make his way into films. His name is Drew McIntyre. And if you base off what he does on WWE, he could be insanely fun in this film. So this could be very interesting as well.
What are your guys' thoughts on Dave Bautista? Quickly, Lacey.
I love him. He does the action. He does the drama. He does comedy so well. He's got kids movies. He's all over the place, and he's good at all of it. I haven't seen anything of his to date that I haven't enjoyed. It might not, he might do some stuff that's a little bit more like kiddie, and then a little bit more like drama. I mean, he's everywhere. And Drax, man, come on. It's hard to do what he does. I mean, playing the straight man, especially one that is the most hilarious member of the cast. That's hard to do, man.
I'm a big fan of Bautista. I think he's actually made career choices that The Rock should have made. He's done a variety of different types of films and taken risks with some of his roles.
The first film that really kind of impressed me with his acting was the movie Bushwick that came out in 2017. And it was it's what happened if U.S.-based military forces invaded Brooklyn. And he's helping this younger girl survive the chaos that happens. So it's basically like a military attempted takeover of New York, and it's a gritty film. Brittany Snow is the co-star in that. I was just like, wow, okay, yeah.
Well, what I'm kind of laughing about too is part of the plot point is he's protecting his girlfriend, who's played by Sofia Boutella, who's a known ass kicker herself too. If you've seen Star Trek Beyond or the Mummy or the Tom Cruise Mummy or a few her other films. So I'm I don't know how much protection she actually needs.
This is hitting theaters, right? Or is it streaming somewhere directly?
Theaters next week. The 13th.
Okay, cool. September 13th. Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. And I just want to throw this out too, Kevin, because I know you and I were both huge fans of this film. the movie Nobody, which you mentioned, the sequel just started filming.
Oh, can't wait. Bob Odenkirk, love it.
But next up, Kevin, let's talk a little bit about the box office, because we just had a huge holiday weekend. Labor Day was here. And I'm actually very excited about this because Deadpool Wolverine remained at number 1. But Alien Romulus is still hanging strong as the second film, which is great news for Disney and Fox. But what I'm more excited about is the fact you have 2 movies doing very strong in the box office, which has been a while since we've had something like this, Kevin.
It is. It's so funny that they're both Disney properties now. So those mattresses full of money just got thicker and they're rolling around in it. But on the consumer part of things, though, I just love the fact that we're getting back into the movie theaters, more of us. I'm always going to be there. The other people on this podcast right here are always going to be there. We love the movie theater experience, but I like that we're getting a strong showing of people going back to movie theaters, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah. I just want to throw out a couple stats here, Lacey, and then I'll get to you. But so Deadpool and Wolverine and Alien Romulus held the top charts. The third Deadpool film continued its impressive run with a 4th non-consecutive weekend at number 1. The only weekend it wasn't at number 1 was the weekend Alien Romulus debuted at number 1. Deadpool and Wolverine was down a mere 17% with 15.1 million over 3 days and 19.4 million through the Monday. This poll puts Deadpool and Wolverine over the 600 million mark with 603.8 million state domestically and 1.262 billion worldwide. At this point, it's the 16th highest domestic grosser of all time and seems quite possible to make it past the Avengers, which did 623.4 million to make it to 13. Obviously, it's a massive hit against a $200 million budget. Alien Romulus was down 43% to make 9.3 million over 3 days, 11.5 through the Monday. It's going to probably hit about 90.9 million domestically, but even better, the film is at 285 million as a worldwide, much like the franchise, and it's probably going to pass 115 million domestically as well. It's only behind Prometheus as far as what it's made, and it had a $90 million budget. So Fox and Disney are very happy with this. But Lacey, it's great to see things back at the box office and doing well.
Yes. And I was on I don't know, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, whatever, the other day, and I saw Kevin Bacon had actually posted a video of him walking, and he was just like, "You guys, I just went to the movie theater. It was fantastic, and it was so cool. And I don't even have to tell you what movie I saw. I was just so excited that it was a packed theater, and people are back in movie theaters, and people are really enjoying it. And this is the way to see movies. And I'm so excited." He was legit just like walking down the street, in the city, just decided to go online and be like, "This is awesome, you guys. I'm so glad y'all are back, coming back." So I think
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
so.
It's great to see, and we're going to talk about it a little more because it's time to talk about some things we've seen here at Culture Clash and at the Fandom Podcast Network. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to
buy it, stream it, or unsee it.
That's right. It is time for our review section. Buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Obviously, if you really like it, you're going to buy it. Maybe you liked it, but I can wait to stream it. I just never forget that I saw that at all. Can I get that 2 hours of my life back? That's what buy it, stream it, or unsee it is all about. And of course, spoiler alerts ahoy. That's right. We are going to be talking about movies and things that are out now. So there will be some spoilers for some of these movies that we will talk about. We will talk about certain spoilers for things down because they might be just recently released, but there is the risk of spoilers. I'm just putting that out for you. And of course, we've got to talk about our friends at Letterboxd. We have fun at the movies with that as well. Kevin, you kind of started the whole Letterboxd crusade. What are you up to now in 2024 on your Letterboxd?
I'm up to 283 films as of July. Excuse me, no, it's July. As of January 1st, 2024, 283.
So basically, what you've seen is about one section of shelving on Lacey's back wall there.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm working on it.
Those shelves hold about 30, about 65 across. So it's probably only about half of one of them. Half of one of the slots.
I feel like I've been put in my place.
I'm just messing.
Okay, guys. Well, we have seen a few things here, and we're going to actually kick things off with a mini documentary that I have watched on Hulu recently, and I found it very interesting. After Baywatch, Moment in the Sun, which was produced by ABC News, but Nicole Eggert was a producer on this, as was David Hasselhoff. This is actually very interesting because no show maybe represents a certain time period than Baywatch, Kevin, as far as just what TV was at that time in the 90s and just a worldwide phenomenon and what they were trying to sell on TV at that time. I mean, Baywatch was everywhere around the world. And yeah, Kevin?
Confession. I did not watch it on a regular basis. I thought it was silly.
Really?
Yeah, I did not. I checked in from time to time to check out some of the hot girls. But I was more into other shows and stuff. Keep in mind, I live within driving distance of Baywatchy areas. And I get the reason why, how popular that it was. But I was more into other silly shows and stuff like this, but I did not watch this on a regular basis. I could not miss it. I could not hear about it. It was everywhere. They were being interviewed all the time. Whenever they filmed down there at the beaches and stuff where they went, it was a big deal. And, I crushed on a few of the stars, of course, but I was not a regular viewer of Baywatch.
Lacey, I gotta ask you because whether you like Baywatch or not, it's hard to deny the cultural phenomenon it became in that time period.
I've never seen an episode of Baywatch. Like, I legitimately don't think I've ever seen a clip from it.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I mean, a huge fan of Jason Momoa. I know he did this Baywatch Hawaii or Baywatch wherever. But I don't think I've ever seen an episode. Not because I didn't want, just because it just wasn't kind of on my radar. That's not what I was into. So, weird. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Obviously, Baywatch, probably the two most famous people to probably come out of Baywatch would be Jason Momoa and Pamela Anderson. Baywatch was a jumping ground for
David Hasselhoff.
Well, he was already Knight Rider.
Also, I will say it did have a fantastic spoof show called Son of the Beach, which I have, and it is absolutely hilarious and it's phenomenal. It's like 3 seasons of ridiculousness.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's great.
But what's so interesting, this is a 4-part, 1 hour each documentary about Baywatch, and they talk about and Kevin, you might actually find this actually fascinating, because they talk about how the first season was actually produced and on NBC, and then NBC canceled it, and it got sold to syndication, and that's where it boomed across the world. And it really talks about the syndication era of television in one of the episodes and what that did, and that's very fascinating. Of course, for a lot of the people who were on Baywatch, it has not gone well for them afterwards with personal problems. One of the people they focus on is Jeremy Jackson, who played David Hasselhoff's son on the show, and a lot of the problems he went through. And Nicole Eggert, who, of course, a lot of us might also remember from Charles in Charge, and the trials and tribulations she went through and has gone through and is still going through. It was at the same time they were filming this, it was revealed that she has breast cancer. And so she found this out towards the end of the filming. They actually address it head on in the documentary. But it's very interesting to hear everybody's differing thoughts on Baywatch and where they came out from it. And of course, look back to the past. This is, I believe, from the Hawaii reunion film that they did. And then, of course, Pamela Anderson was basically a whole episode dedicated to her. But one of the fun things about this too, Kevin, was they remade the theme song of Baywatch for this documentary, and they got some very popular people to do it, and especially in fandom. when Mr. Scott Grimes teamed up with the legendary Debbie Gibson to remake the Baywatch theme song for this documentary series.
Scott Grimes, of course, of the Orville and
Nice.
the TED TV series and many other wonderful series and such. Yeah, I have not heard that yet, Kyle. I need to see that. I will say this, though. A guilty pleasure movie of mine is the Baywatch movie starring The Rock. And yeah, I actually like that movie.
I have that. I do. I have seen something at least Baywatch adjacent. There we go.
Yeah. Zac Efron was funny in that, and that movie's a guilty pleasure of mine.
So for me, I'll say this is a great representation of something at the time and something that was a cultural phenomenon. And if you were around at that time, I was one of these people. I would catch a Baywatch episode. You know, if it was on syndication, I wasn't going out to hunt it down. But then you catch it on TV, you end up watching it for a few minutes for a multitude of reasons. But the thing about this documentary is it's not afraid to say what they knew what the show was about all along and what it turned into and what it focused on and how silly the show was in its own right. But it's a great take you back piece. It's a great piece of television history, whether you agree with it or not. And it's just real interesting to hear the stars and the people who were involved, how it evolved their lives and how the show itself really evolved from what it began as to what it turned into.
Every time I think of Baywatch, though, because I'm a huge Friends TV series fan, is the episode that we got in Friends when Joey and Chandler met for the first time and they were trying to figure out how to bond, and they bonded on the opening scene of Baywatch, and then Chandler going, "Yes, me bleeth."
That is very much addressed in this documentary, Kevin.
Yeah, she hasn't done well, unfortunately.
I would say it's definitely a stream, and especially if you were around at the peak of that, and just to kind of get a better feeling.
I don't have Hulu, darn it.
Yeah,
come on, Disney Plus, just merge it all in.
Up next is a film, Kevin, that I've seen too, and I found it very interesting, and I see that you just recently watched that, and that is Land of Bad with Liam Hemsworth and Russell Crowe. Also, Luke Hemsworth is in this. This was a very intense film. I liked it when I saw it, Kevin. I'm curious to know what you thought of it.
Yeah, and Milo Ventimiglia, of course, as we all know from the Gilmore Girl days, and has gone on and did Heroes and a bunch of other stuff. I went back further than Heroes, bro. To me,
Jesse.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Lacey. Yeah. Gilmore Girls, baby.
Rocky 5, Kevin. Rocky 5.
Yeah, no one remembers or cares about Rocky 5.
Okay.
But yeah, Land of Bad. I was pleasantly surprised how gritty this was, and I want to give a shout out to Liam Hemsworth. To kind of give you a deal of this is that he's basically a drone operator on site, where we get Russell Crowe, who's in charge of the drone operations in the States. And what I found interesting about this film is this type of warfare that we've heard about, and of course happens all the time now without us always knowing about it. But it's we got a lot of that during the Gulf War and stuff like that. But it was interesting to see how drone warfare is now used nowadays, and how they have someone on site, helping navigating of what they need, whether it's surveillance from above or I need these munitions dropped from this enormous drone that can drop all kinds of serious weaponry on a particular area that they need. And he doesn't have this. He's kind of new to this team. The team is run by Milo's character, and they have to go into the Southeast Asia area. I think it's an extraction, if I remember correctly, Kyle. Yes. Dealing with some very horrible people doing horrible things. And things go shit sideways, basically. And it's interesting to see what's happening back in the States with Russell Crowe's character, who is trying to help this guy get out of this shitty situation alive, and how he's dealing with idiot personnel back in the drone central. And then you're getting Liam Hemsworth. And I've seen Liam Hemsworth in a lot of stuff, of course, with the Hunger Games and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first role I've ever seen him in where I've been like, damn, this dude is good. He was badass in this film. He kicked ass, looked good. His acting was on par. This is the movie for me, this was the Liam Hemsworth coming out party. Like, all right, I want to see this guy more and stuff. He's not just the other Hemsworth brother. this guy I think can carry a film, and he does in this film.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think this is his best role to date. Obviously, he's going to be taking over the Witcher role here shortly from Henry Cavill as well. But
Lacey, you a Liam fan?
I am a fan of Liam Hemsworth. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's done a lot of like dramatic kind of rom-com, not rom-com, but like just romance and stuff like that. He was in a couple of, I think he was in a Nicholas Sparks movie. He's been in some, smaller things. I think the first time I saw him as weapons, non-futuristic Hunger Gamesy was it Expendables 3?
Yeah,
where he was the sniper sharpshooter, which was pretty cool. I haven't seen this, but I'm seeing the list of people and I'm seeing the photos or the poster, and it looks good. Is it more action or drama?
It's definitely, there's action. There's action,
okay.
Mostly action combined with some really good thriller drama in it. So yeah.
Very cool. So, and this is Hulu?
And I got to give a shout out to Russell Crowe, because he has hit the role in this film, but it's not like an actiony role. His role is back dealing
he's
in
administrative.
in this control center while he's got people trying to micromanage him, and he's reminding people that there's American lives that are putting their lives in danger, and you're over here messing around, and I got to take control of stuff. And I thought that was a really nice role for Russell. What did you think, Kyle?
I thought it was a very nice role for Russell. And you brought up the point too, Kevin. I know we've had a few movies dealing with drone things within the military, but this is the first one that really I felt like, okay, we're seeing the full experience of what could be happening with drone warfare here.
Yes, if you want to get an idea of what drone warfare is like, I know, there's a lot more to it that we don't know as civilians, but this, as a movie-going fan, gives you the best and current up-to-date way of how this is done.
And this is, you said Netflix or Hulu, or where'd you say it was?
This was it Amazon, I think? It's streaming somewhere. Yeah, it's I think it was, or is it Netflix, Kyle?
I actually bought this movie when it hit iTunes on sale for $10 because I was.
Oh, of course you did.
Oh, okay. Cool.
What's it say here? Oh, yeah, I think it's on Amazon. I think that's what it is. It's Amazon or Netflix. I can't remember. I'm going back and forth between all these, watching them for free. So yeah.
So Kevin, I'm taking it. It's a buy it for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a buy it for me. Definitely stream it if you can. It is a good. It doesn't drag at all, which I liked. Definitely worth a good movie night. Check it out.
Very cool. Well, up next, Kevin, is a movie I know it just hit Peacock, and I actually want to check this out too. The Killer. Now,
yes,
let me in here.
Okay, so I was first attracted to this film because it's John Woo directing, and I'll get into that in a second. But it stars one of my Game of Thrones crushes, Nathalia Emmanuel, also Fast and Furious regular as well, and this is based on the original John Woo film, The Killer, which I'll get into in a second.
Okay. That's where I was curious.
Yes, yeah. There's a newcomer, Omar Sy, who plays the cop. Now, for those of you that don't know, The Killer basically is a hired assassin, okay? And a woman gets caught in the crossfire. This is the plot of the original film as well. And there's a cop that is trying to chase the killer down. Stuff happens, and they end up working together against the greater bad. Okay. Now, I was curious about this because also Sam Worthington is in this. I'm like, okay, curious about that. Also curious because this remake is filmed in all around Paris, and I love Paris. But this remake is done by the original director, John Woo, who did The Killer back in 87, 88, I think it was.
I believe we have the original poster up here on screen, Kevin.
Yeah, and I have, not to be confused with The Killer that came out last year, that starred Michael Fassbender and was directed by, what's his name? David Fincher, okay? I'll get into that in a second. The original Killer is a action masterpiece along with like Hard Boiled. These two you can watch back to because John Woo was the master of gunplay and action and car chases and stuff like that.
And
but there was a lot. And what?
And doves. He's the
Yes.
master of doves. He's
Okay.
master.
I'm going to get into the John Woo tropes in a second because I want to see how many you can name off. But yes. Yeah. So then, of course, he comes over to the States after making his name in a bunch of action films. And the first film he does is Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which we have a Couch Potato Theater on the network here in Fandom Podcast Network, and is our most viewed podcast on the entire network. And then he does Face Off, of course, with Nick Cage and John Travolta, and does some others as well. But back to this one right here. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It is basically the same plot with a few little things that are fleshed out that made the movie interesting to me. And I'm like, how dare you remake The Killer? Then I go, John Woo, how dare you remake your own action classic? Well, he was able to modernize it, update it a little bit in today's society. And Sam Worthington is basically, he corrals, I guess you want to say, or nurtures or hires female assassins because they can get in certain areas that other guys can't. And of course, she is one of them and one of the best. And there's some great location shots in this. There's some great, of course, action scenes. In the original Killer, it's mostly guns and explosions and bikes and cars. Well, you get a lot of knife play in this one as well. It is violent. It is rated R for a reason. Nathalia was awesome in it. I adore her, but she was really good. She kicked ass in this. But speaking of John Woo tropes, Kyle and Lacey, what do you think? Name one off. I'll tell you if it's in this film.
Doves.
Birds, yes, but not a lot. But yes, they are in it. What else?
Brass flying, like flying brass.
Yes, you do
Flying
see
brass.
some. You do see a little
Like
bit of that. Of course.
close-ups in slow-mo of.
Yes. Anyone else?
Something with motorcycles.
Yes. You got motorcycle action going on.
Pan to the clouds or the sky at some point. In like every movie.
Yeah, not too much in this one, but you get fights in desecrated churches and also graveyards.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, do we have the close-up gun battle?
Yes, you do have that as well. Yeah, and of course you get the famous two protagonists, pointing guns at each other, having a conversation and stuff like that. But I got to give him credit. The plot is a little more flushed out in this newer version, because in the original version, you don't need a big plot. You just need to know a killer feels bad for injuring someone, and then it goes against the assassin system, and then ends up teaming up against the bigger bad with the good heroic cop, and they become buddies and they help save each other basically. So, yes, Lacey.
And if you liked Omar Sy in this, he's not exactly a newcomer. He was in Jurassic World. He played Bishop in Days of Future Past, X-Men. He was in the film Intouchables, which is a French film that inspired the Kevin Hart and Walter White, Bryan Cranston film about the man who was disabled and
Okay.
Yeah, that movie. He was in the original for that. He's French.
I had no memory of him. He didn't. Gotcha. I was just gonna say, but he was really good in this. So this is the coming out film for Omar Sy for me.
Right. Well,
he's
in a film called Les Méchants, which is the kind of like the bad guys, but if you have a chance and you're willing to like do the subtitles, it's worth it.
Great filming location in Paris. Paris for me was fresh in my mind because I was just there last year around this time. But I did want to mention real quick the Killer movie that came out last year with Michael Fassbender. It was a huge disappointment for me. Not a fan of that film at all whatsoever. It should have been called something else. The Killer take a nap halfway through it and dumb stuff happens. So anyway, just my thoughts on that. This one, new one, is a lot better.
Tell us how you feel, man. Don't sugarcoat it.
Okay, so are you calling it a buy it, a stream it, or unsee it, Kevin?
I definitely stream it. It's on Peacock. I have Peacock because I wanted to see the Ted series, so I purchased it for a year. And among other things, I'm also streaming 2.5 Men on Peacock right now. So definitely check it out. And I may end up buying it because I didn't think I would like or want a remake of The Killer. It's not as good as the original Killer, but it is enjoyable. So I'm gonna buy it.
There you go. Okay, Lacey. I know there's a movie that you've been kind of telling me about, and I haven't had a chance to see it yet. But this movie sounded like it had a pretty good impact on you, and that's Channing Tatum's new film, Blink Twice.
I'm gonna correct that a little bit. It's Zoe, excuse me, Zoe Kravitz's new film.
She directed this.
She is going to rule the world one day, if not already. For a directorial debut, this is phenomenal. Even for a seasoned director, this is a phenomenal film. I'm not going to say any spoilery type things. It's just one of those kind of you never know who you're with kind of situations. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who knows what. It's a very, figure out who you can trust kind of film. And it's so good. And Channing Tatum, I don't know what
they're engaged now. They actually became a couple, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, they're together. They're engaged. But Channing Tatum, I don't know what they did to his like teeth or his lip or whatever, but he does something with his face that it just doesn't look like him anymore. And it's I don't know. He gives such good creepy vibes. Like he does the great, like charming, sweet, hilarious, adorable guy. But then he also gives such good creepy, like creeptastic. It's amazing.
So Lacey, let me ask you this I know you're trying to stay spoiler free, but give us a little bit of idea of what the plot is.
Okay. 2 women who are working class ladies. They work as servers for like these giant, amazing, balls and stuff. They sneak in with formal attire after they get off their shift. They sneak into a famous, like to a billionaire's party where they're supposed to be servers. And one of them ends up striking up a conversation with him, the billionaire. And by the end of the conversation, he's like, "Hey, we're going to go to my island. Do you guys want to come?" And the overarching question of the film is like, should you go to a strange billionaire's island by yourself if you have, you and your friend, if you just met them that day? Yeah, weird stuff.
The trailer sets that up, and then it looks like weird stuff starts happening after that.
Yeah, it's about it. Now, I will say this: there are some potential triggers. Matter of fact, this is the first film I've ever seen on a live movie screen that has a 30 seconds like trigger warning at the beginning. It says this is about power. This is about abusive power. This is about aggression. There are sexual and verbal aggressive scenes it's a very clear, be prepared for this film.
Interesting.
And it did have all those things. Not all those things come from who you think they're going to come from, which is what makes the film, I think, poignant for this era, this time that we're in, with the kind of the post Me Too, and we're dealing with some political stuff with Roe v. Wade and retracting all that kind of stuff. So this is an interesting film to watch in this time.
So what would you give this? Is this to buy it, stream it, or unsee it?
I'm gonna buy 37 copies and give it to everyone for Christmas. Like this is that movie that you keep an extra copy of because someone's gonna ask you if they can borrow it, and you're not. And the second they take it out of your house, you're like, oh crap, I really want to watch that now.
So is this a horror film? Is it a thriller, or what is this?
It depends on your point of view. That's the thing. It's a horror.
What is your point of view on it? What
as a woman, this is a horror film.
Gotcha.
As a woman, this is the most horrible things women can think of that could happen. Right?
Okay.
It's and if you're like a good guy, it's also a horror film. If you're one of the other guys, it's kind of like maybe it's an exciting film for you. And that's
interesting.
So it's kind of frowny face. No.
Well, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Lacey.
No, but I will say this: regardless of the content of the film, the filmmaking itself, the lighting is phenomenal. The soundtrack, the special effects. There's not they're not visible special effects, which is like the classic thing that you want for your special effects. It's really well done film. The filmmaking of it was fantastic as well. So
cool.
Kind of a 10-10-10 situation.
So it's definitely a buy it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good to know.
All right. Blink twice.
So the next film is the big film of the weekend. I have not had a chance to see it, but I'm going to let these guys go into it because it's been 32 years since we revisited this character. Beetlejuice has hit the theaters.
Don't say it a third time. Just don't say it a third time.
Okay, I think I've jinxed us all. Then we can't say the name of this film anymore. Kevin, Lacey, I know you've seen this film. What were your thoughts on it? Lacey, I'm going to start with you because you have a very important book you're holding up.
Yes. Very exciting. Did not get this from Mr. Juice himself, but this is the fun popcorn bucket. I love that nowadays the popcorn buckets have there's no possibility of actually putting popcorn in them. Yeah. This is not it's a cool fun thing that you can buy and put on a shelf later. But I also got
Well, hold on in your popcorn.
Hold on. Let's wait for the popcorn bucket discussion after the film. Yeah, because we got stuff to handle there.
The film itself was super fun. It was Beetlejuicy without being overly taking left turns. You know, a lot of times when they do a sequel, they try and do exactly what the first one did, and they didn't do that. And I love that they came up with an entirely different situation, entirely different. You know, they took a turn and did some fun things with it. I very much appreciated how they handled one particular character who did not return because of some situations in real life. Jeffrey Jones is not in the film, which is appropriate. And I think Michael Keaton, I'm not joking, I can't tell the difference between now and then. Like when he's got the makeup on, he still looks like he's a 29-year-old dude, because that's how well they did the makeup the first time, and they've recreated it perfectly this time. Loved Monica Bellucci. She's stunning. Everyone's fantastic, and Justin Theroux needs to be in front of the camera more. I know he writes a lot. I know he's like wanting to direct and stuff like that, but he needs to be in front of the camera more. He's so good.
Kevin, Don't say it.
Beetlejuice.
Oh. Yeah.
He's coming to your house.
Yeah. So I wanted to watch the original Beetlejuice. So I had to kind of cram it in for the limited time that I had, because I had such a busy week. But I got it in, and I'm glad that I did. And just remembered how much fun that it was. And it was like, okay, well, how are they going to kind of continue the magic? I'm not going to say recreate the magic, because they didn't have to do that. But I thought they continued the magic quite well. And I know what you're getting at, Lacey, and also a certain Baldwin, of course. They didn't, there's certain aspects of the film that they didn't, return to for when it came to character-wise. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because, Jenna Ortega, who is, of course, the daughter of Winona Ryder's character, was one of the main roles in this film. And I really liked the new things that they brought to this film, especially the world of the dead. And one of my, I tell you right now, I need a Beetlejuice Land right now. I need a World of the Dead of Beetlejuice Land. One of the things I loved about the original, and they may have exceeded it, of the waiting room of the dead, basically, and how you see how people died. A lot of practical effects. The guy Bob, these are all real people that dressed with the little shrunken heads, that walked around with shrunken heads. They were all real people. And just Michael Keaton. Oh my God. Yes, he is Batman. We know that. But he doesn't really cook as an actor in Batman. Yes, he is Batman. He's going to be the most iconic Batman for most people. But I got to tell you, in my opinion, his most iconic role is now Beetlejuice. And boy, does he cook in this film. and I love the little twists that they do, the newer things they added in this film, and I just overall the cast I thought was great. I loved Monica Bellucci and how we learned from her, but guy that steals his scenes too is Willem Dafoe as the former actor who is dead, and he gets taken. He takes over the character that he played, his franchise character before he died, as this kind of police officer role, like a dead, dirty Harry kind of, but with a little more of theater flair, I guess you could say. Lacey,
he's Agent Smecker from Boondock Saints.
Exactly. Yes,
playing dead Agent Smecker.
You nailed it, Lacey.
It's so
imagine he dies, but Agent Smecker's a real police officer in the movie.
Yeah.
He's an actor portraying in the dead world a police officer, and he's taken over the dead police corps, basically.
But that's the thing. I think that it's Willem Dafoe playing Agent Smecker as a dead, and it's just, do you have a favorite death person? Like a favorite mode of death?
Yes. The guy that thought that they could submerge himself inside of a box while chained up.
If you didn't see the cat lady that got eaten by her cats.
Yes.
That's the one, because she has the cats. Because obviously she wasn't found in time and they died too.
Yeah, I just see some great Halloween. I see some great Dragon Con costumes coming next year.
So many.
It's a shame this one didn't come out earlier, so you could have gotten the Dragon Con costumers to do them this year. But I was really impressed with this sequel. The heart is still there, the flavor, the vibe. Tim Burton, of course, directed. I also love Catherine O'Hara returning as well, and what happens with her character. And Justin Theroux, I'm just going to say I need to see another film with him. He's not as wanting to see him. I didn't know who he was in this film. I remember him. All I know him is that he was the guy that dated Jennifer Aniston and still might be dating Jennifer Aniston. To me, he has not made a role for the mass public to go, that's Justin Theroux, not the guy that wouldn't marry or have a baby with Jennifer Aniston. I need him to jump out and do something. This might be that film. He was good in this film, but Justin Theroux is just a name that I've only heard.
He's kind of he's a Ben Stiller group kind of friend. He's friends with Stiller and Janine Garofalo and that kind of crew.
Right.
He was he had small roles in things like Zoolander and Reality Bites, all those kind of little ones that he did. But as a writer, I mean, I think he actually wrote Zoolander. And he's
great for behind the scenes. But he needs to do more in front of the camera to really make an impression on me. This was a good start.
He also played in Charlie's Angels, the first Charlie's Angels. He played the Nazi, the second Charlie's Angels, the skinhead that was
right. Yeah.
And he's just like ripped, and you're just like, holy crap.
To me, he's Jennifer Aniston's ex-boyfriend if they're still together.
Yeah.
That's right now.
Okay.
And of course this role. Kyle.
He did Wanderlust.
Yeah. Well, it's a massive movie coming out, which means, of course, when we are talking about that, the new trend in film, it's time to talk popcorn buckets and things that go with it. Lacey, we saw you have the book there. Kevin, you've got a nice little collection of Beetlejuice things.
Yeah, we need to talk about the popcorn bucket and different types of handbook for the recently deceased there, Lacey. There is 2 different sizes. Did you know this?
You're muted, Lacey.
Sorry, I'm muted because I'm trying to unwrap this without causing so much noise. I did not see the second one. I've seen the first one.
Let me start my show and tell here. I'm going to go ahead and mute yourself while you open that up. So, Lacey, you had sent me a picture of the popcorn bucket, which this one here, I believe, was the AMC one. Is that right, Lacey? This one here, the one that you're holding up? Yeah. The larger. You're still on mute there, so we can't hear what you're saying.
This is
Regal. Okay. Yeah. So this one, and yeah, you can open it up obviously as the book of the recently deceased. And I don't know who puts popcorn in these anymore. It's more of like collectible stuff now. But the AMC one also had a version of the book, smaller version.
Oh, right on.
And the spine is rounded like a book. Yeah.
Nice.
See, so both made of metal, and as you can see, you open it up.
Mhm.
I kind of like this one, although I didn't realize at the time mine got dented at the bottom. Didn't notice that. But I like the round spine on this. I thought that was kind of cool.
Mhm.
And also, I didn't get the sandworm bucket. They were sold out. You have one though, right? Right? Yeah. Look at that bad boy. Look at that one. Oh, so cool. Let me see the inside of it if you don't mind. There you go. Very cool.
Inside of the bucket.
I think you can still order them online through Regal because I was looking online. They're still available.
You can order them online through Regal?
Yeah, if you go through the Regal app, you can notice that. As far as I know, because they show the ones that have sold out, like all the Alien Romulus ones have sold out.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I really wanted to get, I did get. And that, of course, is the Gravestone Beetlejuice. Here lies Beetlejuice popcorn bucket, and you can turn it on underneath, and you got the little light showing. And then, of course, who is going to go to the back of it where the door is?
That's the
popcorn bucket there. Like, nah, it's just like.
That's the reason I didn't get that one. I was like, that doesn't feel like a popcorn bucket to me. It just feels like a thing for your mantle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But that's what's cool about this thing. It's very Halloween-y as well. So this is definitely going to be a Halloween thing out there. But this one actually is my favorite, so I'm glad that I got that one.
Right on.
And then, of course, I got my hands on the pups as well. Oh, dropping them here. This one, I think, was the AMC one.
That's Regal.
This is Regal. Okay. Yeah. Where at the top it says Beetlejuice with a little arrow pointing down, and it's got the it's just kind of like the flyer that they showed in the film, and of course the flyer has Beetlejuice 3 times on there, so they try to force you to say it 3 times. But this one reminds me of this. This is my favorite one. I think this is the AMC one. This one here. This is the thick mug that it reminds me of the Deadpool ones, where it's like kind of a rubbery feel to it. And it's got the Beetlejuice grave thing at the top there. This one is really cool. It's got the Beatles on the thing and thing. Anyway, I really enjoy this one. Yes, Lacey.
So I got the first cup you held up, and it came with 4 options for the topper.
Yes.
So
yeah.
This was the one option. The second one was the gravestone. The third one was Bob's head, which is ridiculous.
I would have gotten like that one.
And then the fourth one is the sandworm, kind of like a little, I did not see. You said that the other one was at AMC. The good one, the thick one. What's the?
Talking about
the cup, the other cup.
Yes, I believe this was the AMC one that I got. Yeah.
Right on. Very cool. So, what are the price points in California for these things?
I can't remember, but I think anywhere from like $35 to $40 for the tins,
Gotcha.
And then the cups were like around 20-ish, stuff like that. I'm guessing.
Right on.
Yeah.
So in Atlanta, this came with a cup for $30.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's a deal. Yeah.
And then for this one, this guy,
that's the sandworm one.
Yes, Regal had them for $30. AMC had them for $40. The Aurora in North Atlanta, where Alex works, had them for $25.
Nice. Yeah.
So the price point is definitely set by the theater. Just
gotcha. The sandworm one is very cool. I like that one.
Yes.
Anyway, we're in the year of the epic popcorn buckets, Kyle. To me, though, no one has topped the Alien Romulus ones.
I'm gonna have to. I might have to correct you on there because there was a popcorn bucket that snuck out. I'm assuming it was a Fathom event or something like that that came out with a re-release of Batman.
Batman 89, yes,
where it's the bat signal.
Okay, it's just the bat signal. It doesn't eclipse the Alien ones. I'm sorry.
The bat signal. I mean, I love that one, but the bat signal was pretty impressive too.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Guys, I would have gotten it. Yeah, I like the bat. I like Batsy.
The summer of popcorn buckets continue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, on the summer of popcorn buckets, we always know that's a buy it. But what about Beetlejuice itself, Kevin? Is it a buy it? Is it a stream it? Or is it an unsee it?
Definitely buy it. It was worth seeing in the theater. I almost went to IMAX, but because of the timing, I couldn't make it because of my Star Wars event I had later in the day. But I definitely you got to see this in the theater. It is visually stunning as well.
Lacey?
Dug it. Yeah, definitely gonna buy it. I think this is one for 4K. I think that the lighting and I think it's definitely a 4K purchase. And I think when I'm down to it, I might actually upgrade my original if it's available in 4K. I think that the colors alone, just is worthy of 4K.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's going to wrap up things we've seen. We got one more thing to do. It's time to talk a little Wanted and Saved from Oblivion. Yes, that's right. We is the main topic of this week's Culture Clash. We are Saved from Fandom Oblivion, Wanted from 2008. This is going to be an interesting topic here on this. Of course, this movie came out, a lot of hype. You had James McAvoy, Morgan Freeman. Kevin, were we at the apex of Angelina Jolie at this point with this film, or like she was just put in a film and it was like, it's Angelina Jolie, she's going to sell the film?
Yeah, definitely. She was a top billing star type person at this time, and then a few years later she did Salt, and then then she did that. Was it the Changeling drama that
Tomb Raider?
Yeah, well, Tomb Raider came out, way earlier, but I'm trying to think of the recent films of notoriety. Now she's kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, she's kind of focused on her family. Lacey?
Let's change that. She became a goodwill ambassador for not UNICEF. I want to say the United Nations. So she's not fallen by the wayside.
I meant film wise. I should clarify. I meant film wise, but no, she's done some wonderful things for. Yeah,
she decided to use her celebrity to help try and change the world. But she also directed her first film, which was the one about the race, the Unbroken, about the POW that. And the running.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I saw that in the theater. I remember that. Yeah,
and I know. I think the most recent movie I saw her in was that one, that Taylor Sheridan firefighting one, for that she did. It was straight to HBO Max.
Those Who Want Us Dead.
Yeah, Those Who Want Us Dead. Yes.
Back in 2008, she was definitely an A-list movie star. We're talking about the movie side of things here.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about Wanted, which was actually a film that was based off a comic book, and this is an interesting time because we're a little bit before Iron Man just hit, but we weren't into that MCU proper and how comic movies are today. We talked a little bit about that when we talked about The Spirit, but I've got the plot synopsis here, just a quick IMDb version. A young man finds out his long-lost father is an assassin. When his father is murdered, the son is recruited into the father's old organization and traded by a man named Sloan to follow in his dad's footsteps. Now, I've got a little bit more in-depth plot synopsis here.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, in Chicago, Wesley works as a dead-end desk job with an overbearing boss, takes medication for panic attacks, and lives with his abrasive girlfriend, Kathy, who cheats on him with his coworker and best friend, Barry. One evening, Wesley is told by a woman named Fox that his recently murdered father was an assassin. The killer, Cross, is now hunting him. When Cross and Fox engage in a shootout, Wesley panics and flees. Cross pursues Wesley, who Fox manages to help escape. Wesley awakens in a factory surrounded by Fox and other assassins. The group's leader, Mr. Sloan, forces Wesley at gunpoint to shoot the wings off several flies, which he does. Sloan explains that Wesley's panic attacks are actually a rare ability that allows him to produce massive amounts of adrenaline, granting him superhuman strength and speed. Wesley's father and Cross were members of this fraternity, a society of assassins that maintains balance in the world. Headquartered in a repurposed textile mill, Sloan wants to train Wesley so that he may help kill Cross. A panicked Wesley leaves the building. The next morning, he discovers that his bank account now contains millions of dollars. Filled with new confidence, he insults his boss in front of the whole office and hits Barry with the keyboard. Wesley trained under the fraternity's cruel tutelage, learning to control his abilities. When his training is complete, Sloan shows him the Loom of Fate, which has served for 1,000 years in supplying coded names of targets through deliberate imperfections in the fabric. The loom identifies those who will create evil and chaos in the world, with Sloan responsible for interpreting the code. After several successful missions, Wesley has an unexpected shootout with Cross, who accidentally kills the exterminator. Sloan sends Wesley after Cross and secretly gives Fox a mission to kill Wesley, saying that his name has come up in the loom. Wesley realizes that Cross used a traceable bullet for the first time, as his previous kills were all untraceable. Wesley traces it to a man named Pekarski. He and Fox capture Pekarski, who arranges a meeting with Cross. Wesley faces Cross alone in a moving train, which Fox later causes to derail. While Cross saves Wesley from falling, Wesley shoots him. Before dying, Cross reveals that he is Wesley's real father. Wesley was recruited because he was the only person Cross would not kill. After free falling into a river, Wesley is retrieved by Pekarski, who explains that Sloan started manufacturing targets for profit after his name appeared in the loom. Cross discovers the truth, went rogue, and started killing fraternity members to keep them away from his son. In order to finish what his father started, Wesley decides to kill Sloan. He attacks the base using explosive rats and kills surviving fraternity assassins in a shootout. Entering Sloan's office, he is surrounded by Fox and the remaining assassin. Wesley discloses Sloan's deception, and Sloan admits his name appeared in the loom alongside the names of those present, saying that he had acted to protect them. He gives them the members a choice: kill themselves per the code, or kill Wesley and use their skills to control the world. As the others choose to kill Wesley, Fox curves a bullet around the room, choosing to follow the code and kill everyone, including herself. And Sloan escapes in the mayhem. Wesley, penniless again due to his bank account being wiped out by Sloan, apparently returns to his desk job. Sloan arrives to kill him, but is shocked when the person is revealed to be a decoy. Wesley kills Sloan and with a sniper rifle from Cross's apartment miles away. Subsequently was the word I was trying to say, and I flubbed it. Sorry, guys. And then, of course, he looks up the camera and says, "What have you done with your life?" Right?
So this movie has a very interesting cast for the time. You've got James McAvoy, who was still up and coming at this point.
This is his breakout movie, guys. Let's just say it.
Yeah. Of course, Morgan Freeman, Angelina Jolie, Terence Stamp, Common is in this. Chris Pratt is in this film. He plays Barry, the best friend. Yeah. So this film was very interesting, and I've got Kevin, and if you want to help me, I've got a couple interesting pieces of trivia here before we get into our thoughts on the film.
Oh, of course, yes. Hold on a second, we'll bring it up. Okay, trivia. Starting off here. Trivia, James McAvoy screen tested for the lead role in early 2006, but was initially rejected as the studio wanted more conventional leading man. He was later recalled when the producers decided that his character was more the runt of the litter. The studio ultimately changed its mind and wanted someone geeky, and McAvoy got the part. I'm wondering if he came in with his Scottish accent because he's Scottish, or if he went in with an American accent on this.
that would be interesting. But this film this was a comic book film, but it was sharing a location with another major comic book film. While on location in Chicago, The Dark Knight 2008 was the neighboring film production in which Morgan Freeman worked while shooting this film. On one occasion, Mark Millar, the creator, snuck onto the neighboring set to see the Bat Pod, which was used for filming. He was evicted from the set when security and producer Lauren Schuler Donner, who visited the set as well, caught him in the act.
Dun, dun, dun. What are you doing here?
Think about this. Morgan Freeman's bouncing between two comic book movies at the same time in the same city. The graphic novel features superhero costumes worn by many characters, but the film eliminates them except for the leather attire worn by Wesley and the Fox. Kevin, you got to get the next one because this is interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. Angelina Jolie asked for Fox, her character, to get killed, reasoning that if she was to find out she had killed people unjustly and was part of something that wasn't fair, then she shouldn't take her own life. Or that she should take her own life, which is what she did.
And this was a very interesting time for Angelina Jolie because she was coming out of her pregnancy and the movie A Mighty Heart in 2007 and wanted to make an action film. Ian Livingstone, president of Eidos at the time, confirmed that there were talks with Paramount to make a third Tomb Raider movie. The movie had to be shot and be released by the end of 2007 due to Paramount's contract. That was impossible, so the plans were scrapped. Angelina Jolie decided to film this movie, and she personally picked the Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the Cradle of Life writer, to tailor the role of Fox for her and completely reshape the film to her likes. And yeah, there's a big conversation to be had about that when it comes to this movie. Real quick, guys, the box office budget was $75 million. It made $34.5 million in the U.S. and just over $200 million internationally for a worldwide gross of about $342 million. It earned $50 million in its opening weekend. The critical reception, Rotten Tomatoes gives the film a 71% approval rating based on 209 critics with an average of 6.6 out of 10. And the consensus wanted is stylish, energetic popcorn fare with witty performances from Jolie, James McAvoy, and Morgan Freeman that help to distract from its absurdly over-the-top plot. It has a score of 64 out of 100 on Metacritic based on 38 reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews. Audiences polled by CineScore during Wanted's opening weekend gave the film an average grade of B+ or on an A+ to an F scale. Of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Roger Ebert and his thoughts. At this time, he was doing Ebert and Roper. He wrote, "Wanted slams the pedal to the metal and never slows down. Here's an action picture that's exhausting in its relentless violence and its ingenuity in inventing new ways to attack, defend, ambush, and annihilate." Richard Roper wrote, "It's made for fans of films that just want to see some great visuals, some amazing sequences, and some terrific performances."
So what I'm getting here is that this movie's getting mostly positive reviews, right?
Yeah, at least for the action side of it, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Alicia Schwartzman of Entertainment Weekly encapsulated many critics' views, writing that Wanted is kind of unintelligible and idiotic. It's kind of unintelligible and idiotic, also kind of nasty and brutish, and also undeniably kind of fun. Likewise, Tom Long of Detroit News wrote, "Wanted may be the most absolutely stone bonkers crazy good movie of the century, or it may be a gargantuan piece of trash. Chances are it's a combination of the two, but man, does it rock." Claudia Puig of the USA Today found the thrilling stunts and hyperkinetic action scenes to be the undisputed stars of this surprisingly entertaining film. So it was released on DVD and Blu-ray on December 2nd, 2008, and 2 U.S. versions were released, including a single-disc DVD and a 2-disc edition of both the DVD and the Blu-ray. A collectible 2-gift disc set DVD was also included. Collectible postcards, a lenticular film cell, and an acrylic frame, and the photo book of the assassins. The DVD debuted at second place on the charts behind the Prince Chronicles of Narnia and Prince Caspian and generated over $65 million in revenue by February 2009. The Blu-ray debuted at first place on the charts.
So the Blu-ray took off as well. I'm trying to set I was trying to set out some breadcrumbs here, guys. This movie seemed to have done well in the theater. This movie seemed to be judged well by the critics and did well on home video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm letting that sink in. I'm letting that sink in for the Oblivion. Why we're bringing this up for Fandom Oblivion.
Well, and I think I have one reason of that. Lacey, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just one other thing. We were wrong. I was going back because I was trying to figure something out, and I was looking at her IMDb. Other than Salt, which was released 2 years later, she has done no other action. Everything's been either animation or Disney, with Maleficent. She did, like I said, Kyle brought up the one or two small kind of independent stuff for Netflix. But there really hasn't been any more like like
Maleficent was the most notable recent movie stuff that she's done.
Right.
Oh,
But talking about the fact that, like, with Gone in 60 Seconds and this one, and just like the kind of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith of it all, and she's been, she was in a bunch of like action, Tomb Raider and all this. This was the last like balls out, like bad bitch kind of actiony flick other than Salt.
Well,
so,
she also did do Marvel's The Eternals, and she was in that. So
no one remembers that movie, Kyle.
Much more recently, yes.
Yeah. So before we get into the conversation of the film, there's something I want to bring up, being the big comic book fan of the group here, because I think this is something that has had an effect on this film, and it's one of the reasons why maybe we're having to look at saving it from oblivion, is the comic versus the film. And in this case, guys, the comic, which is considered one of the better comics of the time, it was written by Mark Millar and art by J.G. Jones, was published by Top Cow Comics in 2003 and 2004 as part of the Millar world. It features an immoral protagonist who discovers he is the heir to a career as a supervillain assassin in a world where such villains have secretly taken control of the planet. The Sunday Times dubbed the title "The Watchmen for Supervillains." In the comic press, Erica Maya of Comic Book Resources wrote that the film's biggest faults lie in how it strays from the source, and that if you've ever seen any movie about leather-clad assassins, you already know how this film plays out. Speed and skill of the movie making balance out those faults, however. And Tom McLaren of Newsarama, who's also a great comic book site, noted that while the story deviated strongly from the source, the movie stands out as a highly entertaining action film that preserves the comic's core premise and cheeky attitude while taking the story into a very different but still satisfying territory. So I'm going to disagree with that a little bit. They deviated from this film a lot, and a lot of it was because of Angelina Jolie and some of her requests. And I think that is one of the reasons why the deviation so greatly from the source material in this is a reason why it's hanging out in that realm, if it should be in Fandom Oblivion or not. But I'm going to ask you guys.
Wait, hold on, Kyle. Let's back up here for a second. So you're saying that the fans of the original graphic novel comic book series here, and that it has deviated from its source, is the reason why no one's talking about this anymore?
I think it's a part of it, yes. Because the comic was so outstanding and still very beloved to this day. And I know that a lot of the comic fans, they said, okay, well, I don't like the movie, but it really wasn't wanted. I mean, the basic premise was there, but they changed it so drastically from the comic that it was really, you could do a remake of Wanted based off the comic, and it would come across as a different film.
I understand that. The point I want to make is I had no idea this comic existed. I'm judging this film on the film alone, and I'm looking back of how popular it was at the time, the cast we had at the time, the money it made at the time. To me, the graphic novel is not even a factor of why no one's talking about this film anymore. To me, I'm like, this is kind of a stamp in time of a really well-made action film with some really cool stuff we've seen since then. A lot of hyperkinetic action scenes, slow motion bullet stuff. I mean, you can go back to the Max Payne, bullet view gaming stuff that we used to have. The cinematography and the effects might have been, maybe pulled from that a little bit. Maybe it's the lack of I mean, you can watch this now on HBO Max, which I watched on HBO Max just out of convenience. But to me, the reason why we're doing this Oblivion film is the reason why it's just dropped off the earth. I know the hardcore fans like you, Kyle, go, well, no one wants to see that now because it doesn't do it, because it went away from the source material. I'm judging it as the film by itself, and it's a damn good film for many reasons. I've got a few, nitpicks about it, of course, but I thoroughly enjoyed my rewatch. Yeah, I know, right? But Adam O'Brien, check it out. He is in the chat here. Says, "I know what's wanted." A good double shot of coffee. Well, I guess he's just waking up in Australia, right, buddy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, considering considering the time it is in Australia, yeah.
So anyway, that's my point I wanted to make. What do you think, Lacey?
I knew there was a comic or a graphic novel. I had not read it. I still haven't read it. When it comes to adapted anything, it's going to be different. It's just you can't do. There are reasons for the differences between these types of media. Some things you can't do. Some things aren't going to apply to a larger audience. Some things are not allowed in live action. There's a million reasons. Just going from material like through an adaptation. So I don't think that it's not a reason. I think that the number of people who classify that as a reason is probably small in the grand scheme of why this isn't on the tips of everybody's tongues right now. I think that visibility, just because of Hollywood, is very much a "what have you done for me recently" kind of situation. And because Angelina Jolie, since this, she's made mostly animation and she's done some Disney stuff. And then she took time off to try and legit change the world. And I think that not being, on everyone's TV every second of every minute of every day, because for a while there, you couldn't look left or right without seeing something that she'd been in. So she was just so present. Right. And I think the same thing with James McAvoy, because people don't really this is so different than his other roles, than most of his other roles, most of his recent stuff. I don't think people realize that he's the guy who was in it. People are like, someone sees this movie now and they go, "Oh, dang, that was James McAvoy. Holy crap." So I don't think that this is really associated currently with James McAvoy, just because he's done so much since then that is so different. I think that this movie did a lot for certain types of action films. I think this was definitely on the rise of the like I said earlier, the bad bitch, like badass, kicking ass, taking names kind of female characters, which is great. I don't know why, other than maybe the actors not being as visible all the time as they were back in when this was released.
Kyle, do you have any more thoughts on why this film is fallen into fandom oblivion?
I think it's for a couple of reasons, and I know you're feeling about the source material and things like that here, Kevin, because you look at the movie as a standalone thing. But I think in this aspect, this movie has fallen from fandom oblivion a little bit, because a lot of people after this movie came out went and read the graphic novel so they could get to source material and realized, wow, this is so much better than what the source material was. Because in this one aspect, Angelina Jolie had the source material changed so much because she didn't want to wear a superhero costume at the time. And so there was a lot of that, because this is really at a point where we're not on the comic book movie boom. I think if this movie's made today or even 5 years ago, it's much truer to the source material than what the actual film was. But I think the other aspect of it is, too, yes, I do think when this movie came out, it did set a new standard for type of action films. But that type of action film has been made now so many more times and so much better. John Wick, all the John Wick films, that this film has just kind of fallen into the ether. And that some of it is maybe, I kind of feel like when this film came out, too, we were at the apex of Angelina Jolie, but a lot of people were starting to get a little burnout of Angelina Jolie, too. And I think she's done this role in other films that was better than what she did it in this. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Salt. So people have that in their heads as well. And with McAvoy, he's gone on to do such bigger roles. I mean, being Charles Xavier and things like that. This is just kind of falls in the wayside. And I think it falls in the wayside, too, because it's just one of those things. It's a lot of people kind of see it as it's just like, oh, it's another action flick. It's another action flick, because it really doesn't even get mentioned as a comic book movie anymore, because it's so far removed from what the source material was. So I think all those things combined have just kind of made people forget about it. It's just
I think too, some things haven't aged well in it as well. And you touched on something I think is probably the bigger key, in my opinion, Kyle, is I think that since then, other movies have portrayed this certain action scenes and genre better, maybe. And also too, if you don't know that it's from a comic, and I was told that it was based on a comic, a lot of the action and the physics are way out there. And so and I think that has thrown people off that don't know that it's based on a comic, going, I see what they're trying to do, but it's a little too outside of the realistic realm. And so I think that may have turned people off as well. Lacey, you got thought?
On that statement right there, I think that this is kind of like John Wick meets Push.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, I think that there is one other.
Good. By the way, excellent way to describe that. I like that.
I think that thank you. I think that one other reason that this might be not so much on the lips of everyone is, it ends in basically, it's a depressing ending, right? Yeah. Because the character that everybody went to go see, they wanted to go see Angelina Jolie like kick some ass, right? And they did, and that's great. And then she was like, oh, well, this is wrong. We did all this. We're all bad guys, and kills everyone in the room and ends the whole thing with a suicide. And that's not necessarily something that, people walk out of the theater. That was great.
Right,
awesome. Yay.
That right there. Let's talk about the ending of this film. That right there is my biggest pet peeve of this film. Is, you're always looking at franchising films and stuff, or leaving something with some type of positivity. Mm-hmm. And before she does that cool around the circle bullet move where she kills everybody and then the bullet goes through everyone's heads, including hers at the end. Mm-hmm. After you see the monologue done by McAvoy's character, and then of course Morgan Freeman's character, and the truth is exposed that Morgan Freeman's character is using this for his own agenda. And then you would think that Angelina Jolie's character, who is trying to save him this whole time, but also, manipulate him, would see the light and realize that, hey, let's go along with McAvoy's brilliantly said new agenda. And then no, she just kills everybody and then herself. That's my biggest pet peeve of this film, is that ending, is that we don't get her anymore, because she is fantastic in this film. And I wanted to see what they would do as a new duo, taking this fraternity and actually using it what they were supposed to be originally for, is trying to balance the power of evil in the world, and then basically coming assassins against the bad people, and we don't get to see that.
Lacey?
Okay. I'm not saying that I don't think that it was an appropriate ending. I'm saying that ending is likely not going to sit well with many people, because exactly the reasons that you gave. Yeah. I will say this. If you look at it as a prequel, realistically, now James McAvoy's character has to recruit all the New Mutants.
I see you're going with that. Yeah.
I will say, and I said this to you guys beforehand, but I do think the most impressive thing that James McAvoy did in the entire film was waking up in the bath and walking out into the room where Terence Stamp is telling him, your father told me to bring you here. Da, da, da. He manages to get up out of the bathtub soaking wet and put on a pair of jeans while the rest of his body is still soaking wet, and walk into the room. If you've ever tried to put on a pair of jeans right after the shower, that is not possible. That is the most impressive thing that he does in this film. He flew off of buildings. He rode on subway cars. He flung bullets. He jumped into rivers and train crashes. And I still think that was the most impressive thing to happen.
I want to talk about some favorite scenes here, and those are definitely good ones. Obviously there's a lot of flying bullets and really cool action scenes and flipping cars and stuff like that. The two things that really stood out for me was, I love the weapons in this film. You got some kind of ancient style looking weapons with some of the new stuff. I love Angelina Jolie's main weapon with her tattoo that went up to the gun handle that matched that. And But I really enjoyed the opening segment where you're seeing how pitiful this guy's life is in office life. For those of us that have worked under people like Janice, I think that's who her name was. I loved how she was put in her place, because these people that are given a certain type of power and abuse it and create toxic work environment was done really, really well. And the irony that Chris Pratt's character loses his wallet because he's boning his girlfriend, right? And then they're in a grocery, or they're at like a CVS type store. Chris Pratt's character doesn't have any money and says, "Oh, dude, can you help me out?" And basically, can you buy these condoms for me that I'm going to use to bone your wife later, even though they're not saying it. But as he's doing the purchase, McAvoy's character, he knows what those condoms are going to be used for. It just puts you.
He's like watermelon flavor. Yeah. And you're just like,
pulling the first half of this film is brilliant for me, and how it sets up how he just hates his life. And we've all experienced aspects of that life working in where it was just done brilliantly. Kyle?
Yeah, and that was one of the aspects that they really did pull well from the comic, was how pathetic his life was before all this stuff happened. And that was probably the one part they really did pull. And that, so I can see why you would like that. Again, when I look at this film, I think too, the aspect of, when we talk about Angelina Jolie, her character dying, that does not happen in the graphic novel. Again, I think, and one of the other aspects of this is this kind of movie that would normally, I think, have a sequel. And because Angelina Jolie made so many changes to it, she upset Mark Millar, who was the writer of this graphic novel. He's like, "Why did I sell the rights to this in the first place?" And he's refused to do a sequel on the graphic novel or write anything. There was talk of it for a little while, and there's still talk of it, but he's, to this point, because of what happened with this film, he's refused to write a sequel to it, even in comic book format. And
Kyle, just kind of say something. You brought something up with Angelina Jolie just there. I think this was a good example of someone who had so much power that she made a decision that was not good for the film.
Yeah, I think that's very much it. And like I said, there's some great fun scenes in this. Like I said, the train, when he's initially brought in and they start training him, I think that's fun. There's some just outrageous moments with Morgan Freeman, because it's Morgan Freeman and you don't expect to see him in those kind of moments. So that's fun. But and I actually do think the car chase scene is actually very well one of the better car chase scenes of the time period.
Yeah, Lacey, you had something you want to say?
Yeah.
I wonder, because if there's anything that you can take away from Angelina Jolie's career, is that even from the beginning, she always tried to play roles that were true to, and this might be a little bit like over the top in just me being the only female on this podcast, but like she really was kind of true to like the female experience, whether it's something with, playing like Gia or doing something like a Girl Interrupted or something like that. And then further into Tomb Raider and some of these other films. I think that her decisions in this movie made sense for what she wanted to say about kind of like being the one woman in this film. Like she's the one woman in this group of men. So I think that some of that, I feel like that's part of her decision-making process. I don't know the original comic, so I can't tell you what decisions were made. I don't know what the options were. But the one thing that I will say about watching her career as it has progressed is that she is always very careful to portray very specific female characters and like the experience of being a woman. I
thought her film Salt was brilliant.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite Angelina films. It's a great action film, a spy, who done it. I love the twists in it as well. When that movie came out, I'm just like, I wouldn't mind seeing more of that as well.
Yeah, I actually think Salt is a better version of this character.
That's fair.
In the basic aspects of, and hence another reason why this movie has kind of lost itself to oblivion. But in this case too, the Fox character was a central part of the Wanted comic, but she wasn't the focus. And I think that's one of the things that I think that the power play she played on this film was she made that character the focus, and the studio went along with it because she was Angelina Jolie, one of the most beautiful people in the world, and probably the biggest female star at the time.
And it was 2008, right?
Yeah, 2008.
So maybe it was time for a female-led group of men.
Well, but I think
processing, yeah.
But again, I think the other aspect of it too is we weren't there with the comic book movie yet, and so they were still not afraid to deviate greatly from the source material. Where I think now they wouldn't do it near as much.
The source material, you said that it was super villains, like superheroes.
It was super villains,
superheroes, super villains. Okay,
super villains.
Gotcha. Also, can we just really quick mention the other female in James McAvoy's character's life was Kristen Hager, who's been in so many things. You know, my favorite being Human. She's been in some really large franchise films, and she's so good at being that kind of whiny, cranky, just yicky girlfriend that you just don't. It's hard to portray those characters. But I really did like the interaction between her and McAvoy's character. Like, I did think that she pulled that off very, very well. And I think that she's the only female that we hadn't mentioned yet. She was awesome. And her stuff with Chris Pratt's hilarious too.
So guys, I think having this conversation brought up a lot of interesting points. But the big question is this movie worth saving from oblivion, or do we let it fall into the wayside? Because I think there's interesting points that have been brought up either way here of why it fell into oblivion, but we need to address, is it worth saving, and are we ready to save it? Kevin, what do you think?
I'll let Lacey go first.
Go ahead, Lacey.
I would say yes. I actually just put the 4K into my Amazon cart because this is one that would actually really, really benefit from 4K, I think. I think that it's a badass movie. I think it's really, really fun to watch. Again, I did not know the original source material, so I can't comment on that. But for what I watched, what I saw, what I enjoyed, I very much enjoyed everything. I mean, down to him taking the ergonomic keyboard with him when he stormed out and then using it to smash Chris Pratt's face across, and the letters come across the screen and it spells, and then his tooth is the U. I mean,
and there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of those little things within this film. If you look up different posters at different times in the film, and even the rats and how they lay out at some point. So there's some interesting camera work that's done with this film as well. But
who directed?
What do you think? Go ahead, Lee.
Who directed? I'm going back in my brain.
The director was Timur Bekmambetov, who at the time was coming off of being very cult popular for doing the Night Watch and Day Watch films.
Yeah. Right on.
Those are Russian productions, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you think? Do we save Wanted from Oblivion, or do we let it proceed down the black hole?
Yeah, I would definitely want to save it because even though Angelina Jolie's character is dead, McAvoy still carries this film. He's wonderful in this film. He's great in this film. And I have the original Blu-ray release that came out. And it's funny, too, because when I was first getting Blu-ray, I wasn't always transferring the digital copy versions. Remember the early digital copy versions where you have to put in the DVD version of the film? And it says here, it's like includes digital copy of the film, expires December 31st, 2009. Plays on Blu-ray players and PlayStation 3. What's funny is I still have the little digital copy release here too. Mm-hmm. And I've never actually tried this, but I'm not a fan of like putting it into the disc drive and then do that whole thing. I just rather buy it on iTunes for $14 or whatever it is. But I still have it in here. I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, this movie is a save it from oblivion for me. I love going back. I realized how much fun this movie was. And there's just a lot of little things, you could look at like, the exploding rats, maybe not aging well if you're, being an animal lover and stuff. But, there's a callback to it. You're wondering like, how are they going to use this guy who loves rats? How are they going to use it against him? And they do. The gunplay in this is fantastic. The car stuff's great. And just the visuals in general, the far flying bullets and explosions, and that the car scene that, how am I going to get this guy in this armored car? Oh, well, I'm going to work together and flip my car over to his sunroof and shoot him in through that way. I thought that was great, and I would like to return to this world, but the question is, this is a world of assassins that's been around for a very long time. Where have we seen that recently in the last 4 films of the John Wick world? A world of assassins was its own world, So it's for new people that haven't maybe seen it. It's tough to go into it unless you kind of take it at a different angle, I guess, and maybe return to the source material and maybe do like a prequel, but then you go like, now you're going into Assassin's Creed territory. Well, I'm sorry, the Assassin's Creed movie, another Michael Fassbender film, was not good. So I want to see McAvoy's character return. I'm just going to put it there. That's why I want to bring it back from Oblivion.
I wonder if you could actually create a crossover between Wanted and Wick. Because it feels like,
don't get my movie chub boner going hard on that one, because I'm liking that.
If you could go, because I mean, at this point we've had 4 films. You start off with the underground, and then you come, then there's the family, then there's the council. So each one has a new group of people who are like slightly higher than the last, right? So when we get to like John Wick 17, he's gonna walk out and be like, okay, I started this all. Here we go. And he's going to tell the story about how he, did the thing and all the stuff and the whatnots. And he's going to tell the story of Angelina Jolie killing all the people. Yeah, that's a possibility. It's a good, it could be a crossover.
Kyle, what say you? Do you want to save this from Oblivion or keep it in Oblivion?
So this is probably where I'm going to differentiate from you. I'm indifferent. I watched this film this morning before the podcast again.
Same.
And I just found myself indifferent. I mean, there's some McAvoy is phenomenal. I will give that. I will pound that drum to my dying day. But as being a fan of the source material and everything like this, if they were to say tomorrow we're making a new version of Wanted that's closer to the source material, I'm all in. I think that would be great. I would like to see that actually revisited with this. With this film, again, I think it's been pushed to oblivion by John Wick. I mean, I truly feel that way. Now, if I want to watch something about a world of assassins, I'm watching John Wick.
John Wick 1 came out in what, 2010?
No,
12?
I think a little later than that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. You made a good point on that, because this, if you're going to do a sequel to Wanted, 2015. Okay,
14.
So that
14.
Okay, so yeah, that was 6 years later that it came out after Wanted. So yeah.
And just in the aspect of, I don't know if you can recapture the magic with it, because you're not going to get Mark Millar back on a Wanted project at this point. I think he's moved on. I think he's done.
I guess he hates more money. All right, go for it, Mark.
Oh, well, no. Netflix gave him a ton of money here recently to do a lot of his other different comic books. The Millarverse, but I don't think he's hurting for money. Let me put it that way. But I think outside of the McAvoy performance, this is not something that's like, oh, it's Wanted. I can see a reason to save it from Oblivion, because I think
Come on, Kyle. Get us here. Come on.
It's there's some logical aspects because of what it did for action films, but for me, it's kind of goes into oblivion. It's kind of forgotten about. I mean, until you actually, it never even crossed my. It doesn't cross my mind. It didn't even cross my mind until you suggested it as a film. For
Fandom Podcast Network House Divided.
Yes.
Okay, so Kyle says leave it in Oblivion, and Lacey and I say bring it back from Oblivion. So the question, Kyle,
I was just going to say, I'm going to throw this out too. If you're reviewing this on YouTube or listening to this podcast, leave some comments. Let us know what you think on that too.
So real quick before we wrap this up, Kyle, what did we rate it on Letterboxd? Because I've just rated it. I realized I didn't enter it in yet, and I just did. On Letterboxd, by the way, it's getting an average of a 3 out of 5 stars. Lacey, what are you giving
I am looking to see. I'm going to my letterbox right now to see because I honestly don't know what I rated it.
Well, I gave it a 3 out of 5. Kyle, what are you giving it in Letterboxd?
I am giving it a 2.5 out of 5.
Okay, almost in the middle. That's it, right in the middle. It's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I think that's why I think that sums up this film. It's average. There's nothing that makes it stand out anymore compared to the time when it came out in 2008 to now, and and I think that's why it's fallen to oblivion, because it's just become an average film. There's superior versions of this film that exist now.
So 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd for you, 3 out of 5 for me. What about you, Lacey? What do you?
Mine says 3.5.
3.5. All right.
From way back when. I think I logged this in.
Okay.
It's been a while.
So
since I looked at this, yeah.
You guys listening, watching us, you tell us. Do you want to back from Oblivion? Wanted 2008. Let us know.
It's been a fun to talk about, and it's been a very fun show of Culture Clash. First and foremost, I want to thank Kevin and Lacey for joining me on this episode to talk all the things that are out there and have an interesting conversation. 2008 might be considered, if it wasn't for Iron Man, it might be considered the year of the flawed comic book film.
So, Kyle, are we going to tease what we're doing next time for Culture Clash?
We are going to tease what we're doing next time for Culture Clash, and I'm going to let you tease it because I know you're incredibly excited about it, Kevin.
We're going to be back to our time travel spotlight. And we are going to be returning to Free Jack. Yes, Emilio Estevez, Mick Jagger, and Anthony Hopkins, and Rene Russo. Classic from 1992.
And if you want to find it, it is streaming on Amazon.
There you go. Or remember the old school DVD cases?
Oh, God, I hated those cases. I hate those cases.
I'll probably watch on Amazon for a more clearer picture, though.
Yeah. So, again, thanks to everybody for watching us on this episode of Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know about the Fandom Podcast Network channel. Please give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it out. Of course, too, you can follow all of our audio shows on our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com, or on all the major podcast catchers out there, whether it's iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon, so many other things. Kevin, I want to thank you for coming on. I know this was an interesting episode to talk about, and a very interesting film to talk about.
I just want to bring up one of the biggest action tropes that have happened over the last 20 years, and people aren't really talking about it when it comes to villains. And that is villains on motorcycles with helmets. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on all the socials and on Fandom Podcast Network.
I don't understand why you think that villains aren't concerned with their auto safety, their transportation safety.
Yeah. A lot of villains on motorcycles over the last 20 years, 30 years, actually, if you think about it. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Lacey, where out there can people find you?
Yes, I am at Lacy Pants at all the places other than Instagram, where I am the Lacy Pants.
Yes.
Awesome.
Of course, you can find me at ACalW on the Twitter. You can find me at ACalFandom on Instagram and Threads. And, of course, you can find me on Facebook, all over the Fandom Podcast Network Facebook group page. Been a fun show. I need to yes, Lacey?
Can I just say one thing about the social media of it all? If you're going to contact us, let us know that you listen to the podcast, because I don't know who you are. I need to know who you are before I click on you, or because if I'm making friends, that's great. But
yeah,
if you don't send me a note saying, "Hey, this is where I know you from," I just think that you're a bot.
Yeah, or let us know what show you watched and podcast you viewed or listened to. We'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah, always appreciate the input.
Yeah.
Lacey, I know you need to get back to some kitties.
I know.
Kevin, I know you need to probably go stand in the freezer for a little bit more just to make sure everything's congealed after melting yesterday. Do I need to get one of those baths ready for you?
Yeah, I need a wanted healer bath, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be comfortable waking up with the crusted thing over me, but Beetlejuice. And with that, before he gets here, we are getting out of here. As always, remember, respect each other, and most importantly, enjoy your fandom. We have done this thing, and we are out of here.